So let's talk about getting better at poker, but not by just grinding out more and more hours. No. We're going to talk about how you can get an almost instant boost to your game just by being smarter about two things: how you study and how you perform.
Does this look familiar? I mean, you're putting in the time, you're at the tables, you're studying, but your win rate is just flat. It feels like you've hit a wall, right? It's a super common frustration, but trust me, the solution probably isn't what you think it is.
And that right there, that's the whole secret. The way to get better isn't just paved with more hours, it's paved with better quality hours. You can think of it like a two-part puzzle. First, we've got to optimize your study time, and second, we have to optimize how you perform when you actually sit down to play. All right, so let's dive into that first piece of the puzzle. It all kicks off with how you prepare when you're away from the table. The goal here is to study smarter, not just harder. You know, one of the biggest myths in poker is that the person who studies the most is going to win the most. But that's just not the whole story. The reality is how effective your study is matters way, way more than just the sheer number of hours you put in. Now, what's really interesting here is the huge difference between these two columns. See, passive study, watching a video or just reading an article, that gives you some understanding. But it's the active study that really builds the skill you can actually use. It's like the difference between watching a documentary about swimming and actually jumping in the pool. When you're running your own sims, arguing about hands with your friends, taking detailed notes, that's what's actually building the pathways in your brain to make better decisions when the pressure is on. And the best part? You don't have to go it alone. In fact, you probably shouldn't. Studying with other people is a massive, massive accelerator because it shatters your own little echo chamber. You get new perspectives, and you're forced to really explain your own thought process out loud, which is just an incredibly powerful way to lock in what you know. And get this idea is actually backed by psychology. It's called the protege effect. Basically, when you teach something to someone else, you have to organize your own thoughts, figure out what the most important parts are, and simplify it. And in that process, you end up understanding it on a much deeper level than you ever could by just reading about it. Seriously, you can even just explain a tough spot out loud to yourself. It really works. And let's be real, the best study plan is the one you can actually stick to. If you absolutely dread opening up your poker software, like a solver, which is basically a super powerful poker calculator, you're just not going to do it consistently. So find some part of poker theory that genuinely gets you excited and just start there. Enjoyment is a huge motivator, and that motivation is what leads to real learning and making it all stick. Okay, so you've put in the smart study hours. Your brain is locked and loaded with all the right strategies. But what good is all that if you can't actually execute when it counts? So let's move to the second half of this whole equation. It's time to perform like a pro. So what is the single biggest thing that holds most players back? It's not some super complicated strategy mistake. Nope, it's something way simpler and honestly, way more destructive. It's playing when you're tired. I mean, it sounds so simple, right? But when you're fatigued, your brain just isn't firing on all cylinders. Your decision-making gets sloppy, you make mistakes you'd never normally make, and your win rate just tanks. And what's worse, you can't even learn effectively. You might try to use a concept you just studied, but your tired brain just can't execute it right, and you end up learning the wrong lesson. This all comes down to a huge mindset shift. You have to stop treating your poker sessions like casual fun and start treating them like a real competition. Think about it. A professional athlete would never show up to a big game unprepared or unfocused, and neither should you. Every session is a chance to play your A game. So how do athletes get ready for a game? They warm up. And poker players should be doing the exact same thing. A solid pregame routine gets your mind and your body ready for peak performance. Maybe it's some light exercise, a few minutes of meditation, running some GTO drills, or just reviewing your notes. Whatever it is, that ritual tells your brain, okay, it's go time. And that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle. And honestly, this might be the most important part of all. You can have all the strategy in the world, but if your mental game crumbles under pressure, none of it matters. This is where you find your real edge. Let's just get one thing straight right now. You are going to make mistakes. The best players on the entire planet make mistakes. It's just a part of playing a game this incredibly complex. The goal is not perfection. The real difference between a good player and a great player isn't if they make mistakes, it's how they react when they do. So what's the best way to respond when you make a big, costly error at the table? The answer is self-forgiveness. Beating yourself up just creates this awful negative cycle of anxiety and frustration, and that actually makes it harder to learn from what you did wrong. The research is clear. When you can acknowledge the mistake, forgive yourself for it, and then move on with confidence, your brain is in a much better position to learn and handle the next tough spot. So, wow, we have covered a lot of ground here. Let's pull everything together and lay out a really clear path forward for you. So here it is, all boiled down. Your path to becoming a killer poker player is a two-pronged attack. First, you optimize your study. You make it active, you do it with other people, and you find a way to make it genuinely fun. And second, you optimize your performance. You treat it like a sport. You show up rested, you warm up, and you build that mental muscle to forgive your own mistakes and move on. And that leaves us with one last question, and this one's for you. As you think about your own game right now, which of these two areas really needs your attention the most? Is it the quality of your study, or is it the quality of your performance? The first step is just deciding where you're going to begin.